Casey Corbin, thank you so much for joining me on the Cassius Morris Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. We last talked on your podcast, Talkin' Wrestling, which is, of course, a huge hit. And, of course, you're a comedian who's been touring worldwide. And this is being recorded on 420, so I have to say, happy 420 to you.
It is a happy 420. I've been indulging already,
You've
so
been
it's
indulging.
been a good
Hey,
day.
we got to get into it,
Yeah,
right? And apparently, this is what people have been saying this is the month that is 420 for a whole month or something like that.
the whole month is 420 technically. It's the fourth month of the 20th year.
There was also something this week with something about three different planets were going to be visible in some sort of crazy eclipse. I didn't personally see it where I've been at, but definitely a crazy wild week going on. You're over in Toronto. I do have to touch
Yeah.
on legalization a little bit. And the reason I want to touch on it is because I last went to Vancouver and I was there a year prior and there was so many more weed stores everywhere. And I went the year
Yes.
after and they were gone. What's that been like in Toronto when it comes to legalization?
Okay, so very similar. There used to be about 100 weed stores probably in and around Toronto before the legalization that were all running and fine and everything. It was like the wild wild west until the regulations came in. And then once the regulations came in, most of them, well, all of them were eventually all shut down. And then the eventually the new ones are still opening up now. The regulations are usually pretty easy. They can pretty much be anywhere as long as they're not within a certain distance from a school.
Right.
Um, yeah, so my like my I got one 10 minutes away from my house, which is great. It just opened, and right now you call it or no, you order online and then you go and you pick it up. You don't the store. They're right there at the door. They're like your name, and you give the name. They look at your name. They see the order. You can say the order, and they bring it right to you. And it's everything's done at the door. You don't even go in the store.
Is that always, or
So
is that just since the virus?
that's the virus. But
Okay.
when you actually go in the store, it's beautiful like any of the other ones. Like because I remember, yeah, the first one in BC was in Kamloops.
Okay.
And I went there like the first month it was open. And I was
Hmm.
so excited because it was the first time I legally bought weed. And then I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get this back to Toronto? And I was like, oh fuck, I can fly with this now. And I felt
Hmm.
so good walking on a plane with this British Columbia weed bag,
Yeah.
from the thing. And I was like, that's right. I got like fucking an ounce of weed here, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And I was so happy to bring BC, but it just makes life so much easier because as a touring performer, I used to get to a town, have to look up the number of my drug dealer and hope he's still around because it's not my regular town,
Right.
or and then get from him or whatever, or fly with it, which is you could do that option too. But I never had a problem flying with it in Canada because you're not dipping into the states, so you're not
Hmm.
you're not smuggling. You're just bringing, and as long as I was told, as long as you have less than a quarter of weed, it's not gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
So I always flew with weed, but for people that don't, it's just so much easier when you get to a town. You don't have to find a drug dealer. You just look in the telephone book or on the internet and find out where the weed store is. You know,
Right. So you always flew
and
with weed. Are you saying since it was legal, or do you just mean always?
oh no, well now that it's legal, I think I can say that I'm not. I flew with weed all the time, like every trip. You know, I just
And that's a lot of people, by the way.
and like I never went across any borders, but
Hmm.
all within Canada, I always brought like 3.5 grams with me or something like that. Just enough to get me through the first day or two until
Hmm.
I found somebody or somewhere to get weed. So, because I
Yeah.
always want to try the weed of where I'm from, especially when I'm out in BC. So
Yeah.
they
No,
have a
for
good
sure.
reputation. But
Definitely good variety for sure. It's so funny. Like in terms of the legalities of it, like now it's legal to fly with up to an ounce, I think. And the first time that I flew, I think I had almost that in my bag. And I sometimes feel like I'm doing something illegal just going through TSA because I don't know, it's just a weird
Yeah,
energy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I
totally.
was going through there and I was allowed, but it felt weird. And then when they went to hand off my bag, they came up to me. They're like, "Is this your bag?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they go, "Here you go." And I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I got through. I mean, I guess I'm not breaking the law, but it's still that thing that's ingrained in you. And it's weird to think that I think this might be the only country in the world that you can fly with weed because I'm not sure what the laws are in the U.S. about it right now.
Oh no, you can't. You can't fly with. No, 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 you can't. No, there's
It's a
no
little
way.
surreal.
It is. It is. I know guys that have mistakenly flown, like they threw a vape pen in their, like a weed vape pen in their bag, and they had it on travel on, but the guy's like pulled it out, and he goes, "Oh, my vape." And they just put it back in, like it's because it looks like a regular vape. Who's to say what it
Exactly.
is? So I know guys that have gotten through with stuff like that, but like we're talking in America, you can go through, and if you have a used pipe, you could get like charged with pot paraphernalia,
Yeah.
and that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
It's like, so anyways, you can't even bring anything like, or even go, like, if I go to the border, I don't mention, now they don't ask, I keep it very fucking, you know just answer the questions.
Hmm.
So, but like, I'm always worried because they're like, do you have any pot or anything like that? They never asked for that, so I've never went through a question like that. But I always worried that they're gonna be like, have you smoked weed in the last month? And then I'll be like, they're like, you're out of here. But
Yeah.
it's never
Banned.
like that. No, like, man, one time I crossed in Victoria, because usually I like to get stoned before I fly.
Hmm.
So it just relaxes me, and which is nice for flights,
Yeah.
and I can sleep on a flight too. So um, I'll go on flights, and then so I'll get pretty stoned before I go to the airport. But one time I was in Victoria and I was taking the ferry to Seattle, and
Okay.
um, and I went to the ferry, and I smoked. Plus, I was leaving Canada, so I had to get rid of all my weed. So I ate a bunch of edibles, and I smoked as much weed as I could, and then I threw it out in a park, garbage, and my pipe and everything. It's like every time I have a one hitter and I go to get on an airplane, it was like a burner phone. I'd be like, "Goodbye," in the
Yeah.
garbage.
Ditch
You
it.
know, yeah, Purell your hands so in case you have to touch something. Like, can we scan you? Yes, yes,
Yeah.
scan me
Please
away.
do.
Yeah. So so then I get on the ferry. I go to get on the ferry, and then they're like, "Oh, you have to go through customs. You're going to America." I'm like, "Fuck! It's on this side." Oh, I know. I'm
Oh
on a
shit.
boat. So I was like pretty wrecked, and I thought the guy was gonna know for sure, and the guy was like, "I'm wearing a Guns N' Roses concert T-shirt," and he goes, "Did you go to that concert?" And I was like, "Yeah, I went to it in Toronto." I said, "Did you go to it?" He goes, "Yeah, I went to it in Seattle. It's fucking wicked." And I was
Ah.
like, "Yeah, totally wicked." And he's like, "All right, have a good time." Like, I was like, "This is the best."
He's like, "Hey,
So
you have any
I've
weed?"
always
Like,
been, yeah. Have you had any weed? Or because you're always worried as a comic too, because there are comics that go down there and try to work without papers. So they're looking for people to kick out, and I'm always worried that they're going to ask me what I do, and because I do tell them I'm a professional comedian, and they do ask me, "Do you have any shows?" And I'm like, "Nope," and they're like, "All right, have a good trip." And but you like, if you even said you had one or two shows, you're fucked, because you don't have a
yeah.
right to perform in America. You're not an American citizen until you have those papers. You don't have any right to perform in America. So whether you're getting paid or not paid, everybody's like, I can do a free show. And I'm like, no, because the way the government looks at it, you're taking up stage time from an American who's trying to get better to get a paid gig. You're still
Right.
taking the opportunity away from an American. And that's the problem. Until you have the papers, you can't do shit. But there are a lot of Canadians that go down there and do shit anyway. So
It's
it's
true.
crazy.
So, what are the penalties for a comedian illegally working in the U.S. from Canada?
It depends on how bad they bust you and what you get busted for. Like, they can kick you out for a year. Usually, there was a girl from Vancouver who just got ousted for 5 years.
I did see
So,
that.
because, yes, but she was very, very dumb in everything that she was doing. She thought she was smart. She thought she could beat the system. She was clearly trying to take advantage of it. She got a Nexus card, which is smart because then you don't have to talk to them and you just go through because you're trusted. But the fact is, once they realize, even if you're trusted, they're still going to look into you. Like, she crossed the border to get gas. How dumb are you? Why would you do that? That's how she got caught. So anyway,
What does that mean?
well, because with Nexus you can just cross the borders. Like, look, Tommy has Nexus and he goes to the States all the time. I think he's got a PO box down there. Plus, he's got a bunch of restaurants that he loves. So he's
Right.
always and he flies out of there too. Like, he flew to Vegas for very cheap, where I flew to Vegas very expensive because I had to go from Toronto. But
That I
he's
heard
over there.
about. This is our mutual friend Tommy Campbell, who's a comedian, folks, by the way. Great guy.
Yeah, and we went to Vegas to see David Lee Roth, and we had a fantastic trip. It was amazing, and it was just like everything was normal back then. It's so weird that
Yeah,
was like 2 months ago, and here we are today, and everything is crazy. You
I
know,
know. I was just in
so
Vegas right before that, and that's exactly how I feel. But quickly, so she went and got gas in the U.S. I'm wondering, how did that get her caught?
oh, because she had to cross because she must have been flagged
Hmm.
for something. So
Oh,
they flagged her, and they pulled, like, where she thought she would just go through. They actually told her to pull in, I guess,
oh,
and then they started the interrogation. And once she goes through someone's Facebook, people are dumb in what they post. They'll post everything, and they'll post things that are incriminating. Like, they post their shows, they post where they're performing, they have posters of them. Like, all the proof is there in the Facebook. And she even had a show that celebrated 9/11.
right.
So
Yeah.
how do you think that's going to look? Like, that's probably why she got a harsh 5 years, because if they see that, like, are you fucking kidding? You're
Yeah, for
making fun
America
of,
of all places.
exactly. It's one thing if you're Bill Burr and you're doing it on stage, you're Bill Burr. But if you're just some Canadian coming into another party, coming into another country, and you're having a pro 9/11 party, get the fuck out of here. You know,
Yeah. And
just
even a big
dump.
name would face some backlash, but I mean, they'd probably be able to bounce back a lot harder.
Of course, there was a comedian that said he was involved in 9/11, and his career has never been the same since because he lied
Really?
about it. Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
was.
Oh, the one who said he was one of the victims type of thing.
Yeah, he was on the
Right.
league, and
Right.
and then his career just took a fucking shit. Nobody even knows him, like, anything about the guy. So it's crazy.
I can't take
But
somebody seriously who does something like that.
no, no, like, why would you even lie about that? And then I always find it interesting about 9/11 is, every year they have this. It's like the specials about 9/11, like every 9/11. But I
Hmm.
often wonder with the specials is like, do these guys that book these specials, like the survivors, do they have agents just
Yeah.
so they can get them roles in 9/11 documentaries? And they're like, I got a survivor, and they're like, yeah, we've been getting offered a lot of survivors lately. So what floor was your survivor on? Oh, um, he was on the second floor. Oh yeah, we're not booking anybody below the seventh floor because those people had plenty of time to walk out, even as the building was falling. So,
Right.
we're
They have
only
like a talent
booking.
agency.
Yeah, yeah, we're only booking. If you got someone from like the 16th floor, that is someone we're interested in talking to. So, it would be funny. Like, that to me would be a funny 9/11 sketch where your value as a 9/11 survivor is based on what floor you were on and what floor you survived from.
How bad it was and how hard it was to escape.
Yeah, it's like you were one of those fuckers falling out of the window and you survived.
Yeah.
You just made it on the Oprah.
This is a prime client right here. It's like, yeah, we got National Geographic, Oprah. We got a couple offers for you to look over. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
all the offers are coming in. Stern, everyone. So
That's
it's great.
classic. Speaking of the comedy and some of your interests, obviously we can see that you're a big music fan. What did you sort of go towards first? Was it comedy or was it music?
Uh, oh well, I always loved music, but I never. I asked for a guitar when I was a kid, but I don't have the coordination to play guitar. I'm not. It's very difficult for me to pat my stomach and do circles on my stomach and pat my head, like do that thing. I like the idea of you're playing two instruments at one when you're playing guitar. You're playing the neck, and then you're playing the guitar.
It's
To
true.
me, it's like so you have to have incredible control to be able to control to have your hands doing two different things at once. And to me, I'm not that coordinated, and I just can't do it, and I get frustrated whenever I do try it because I love Eddie Van Halen, and it's like I want to sound like that. And you're like, yeah, but that's the best. You can't sound like the
Exactly.
best. You never
Yeah.
will sound like that. So I do have a guitar, but I've never learned to play it, and no, I've never. So, but music has always been the love, but then comedy is always a love too. And comedy I learned to do. Well, you don't even learn. You just, you figure it out when you're a kid. Really,
So
how to
is
be
that
funny.
when it started for you?
Yeah, I was a funny kid. I acted up in school and stuff like that. Got
Mm.
laughs. Like you get the idea of making a class laugh. At the expense of a teacher who you probably didn't like anyways. It felt pretty good, And I remember a teacher used to like give us. He would be like every Friday there would be somebody who would get to go up and do a little speech at the end of the day or like a show and tell type thing. That was
Hmm.
great. Like that was like I couldn't wait for that day. Or any oral presentation. Love doing oral presentations. Like
Yeah.
any public speaking, I used to love it. I would write like routines. Like I remember my grade 7 speech was called "Fill the Fly," and it was the story of just being an average day housefly. And he was like, and it was filled with like horrible puns, like every night I like to watch the Fly Witness News and Family Flies, and it was like a horrible, horrible pun filled story about a fly. And I remember I got out of the class and I made it to the school final, but I didn't make it to the Legion because you wanted to make it to the Legion back then. That was the big deal because you get the orange Macdonald's drink. So, um, yeah. So, anyways, I was doing that in grade 7. So I was already writing what I thought was comedy. Um, yeah, and then I first time I ever tried comedy was in grade 12 or grade 13. I did it at a school thing, and it did not go well. But then
Mm.
I didn't actually get on stage till I was maybe 21 or 22, and I did it at Yuck Yucks in Ottawa. And I found like I was in my second year at hotel restaurant management in Ottawa, and I read an article in the newspaper about Norm Macdonald. It was talking about him being on Weekend Update and how he started in Ottawa and where he started, and then it gave the address and the nights and New Talent Night at the end of the
Oh.
article. And I didn't even so I was living in Ottawa and I didn't know there was a comedy club, but I was obsessed with comedy at the time. I'm
Right.
obsessed with music, comedy, and wrestling. Those three things were my obsessions,
Yeah.
and I was just waiting tables in a restaurant. So immediately I called down, and then they said come down to a live show and check it out. So I did that. I thought the talent was amazing, and
Mm.
then I went back the next week and I got on stage for my first time. So and I had 16 beers in me, and
Whoa.
and I had a yeah, and I had a good show. I had a really good show, but I was really
Damn.
really drunk.
Was
So
that from nerves or was that just because?
I used to drink a lot. I used to be
Hmm.
able to drink like 12 beers and whatever. Like I was, you know, so 16 beer was nervousness and drinking a lot,
Right.
and yeah, and it was all right. But they told me to do it sober the next time, and I
Mm.
tanked the next time horribly. and then I tanked the next time, and then I tanked the next time, and then
Wow.
I got a good one. So it was like a good one, not good one, and then the progression was like pretty slow because you could only do one show a week if you got on. It was like a radio contest trying to get in. Like
Hmm.
I would have to leave my class in college, go to a payphone with a quarter, dial the phone, hang it up, get the quarter, pull it back, put the quarter in, dial the phone, and then do and keep doing
Man.
that while you're on a washroom break from your fucking college class that you're paying for, you
Wow.
know? So this just times are so different. And there was only like, so sometimes you get 2 shows in a month, and sometimes you wouldn't get no show in 2 months if you got shut out. Because there's like 40 comics trying to get 10 spots back then.
Was
So
that the only show at that time in Ottawa?
yeah, it was the only stage and the only show at that time. Yeah.
Wow.
And
So
that was, and it was
everybody
like
who
that.
knew about it.
Yeah. So it was like that for 94 is when I started, and it was like that right up until about 97. Then another little club popped up, and then
Wow.
but they didn't last long. But still, then there was people wanting to starting rooms and stuff like that, and yeah. But that it's that one spot on the Wednesday night was the most coveted stage spot in Ottawa, and still is to this day. Like the Yuck Yucks and the Absolute clubs on Wednesday nights or amateur nights in Ottawa. That's the best stage time you're going to get. So, you
Right.
know.
So at what point did you start traveling outside of Ottawa for stand up?
Uh, yeah, that happened like in like '99.
Okay.
I went to Sudbury was my first out of town show, and went up there. There used to be a Yuck Yucks up there, and then by uh, yeah, and then '99, further in '99, I got sent out west, and I was out there for the month of August, and I didn't make very much money. I made like maybe $900 on the whole month. That's
Okay.
not a lot of money
Yeah.
at all. I was making $45 a show. But on that tour, I met a guy by the name of Harlan Williams, and I opened for him,
Damn.
and we became friends,
How'd you guys
and
meet?
friendly enough where I worked for him. I was scheduled to open the shows for this guy named Andrew Gross. And then what happened was Harlan booked the Tonight Show, so he had to flip his weekends. And then I ended up on a weekend with Harlan Williams, and
Wow.
we hung out all weekend and had like a really memorable weekend. And then I would see, and then he gave me his email address to keep in touch, which I did. And I would see him like every year for the next 4 or 5 years. We'd consistently see each other somewhere at some point during the year and catch up and have a good time.
Hmm.
And then in 2004, just based on a whim, I heard a story that he was going to do a theater tour across Canada. It was across Eastern Canada actually. And anyways, I emailed him and asked him if he wanted me to open for him, and he got back to me and said, actually, you were at the top of my list, so hang in there and I'll get back to you. So
Wow.
what I didn't know was Just for Laughs was promoting the tour, and it was put on by the Comedy Network and Just for Laughs, and both have already denied me the festival and the special that year. So once I
Oh.
realized, oh, this is well, I'm not going to get this tour now, even though he
Oh.
wants me on it. So I had 3 weeks of anxiety, and then finally I got the tour. He called me up. He's like, "We're all good to go, buddy. He goes, just waiting for the paperwork, you know." And then the guy sent me the paperwork, and it's so funny. The guy that sent me the paperwork, uh, you know what he does now?
What?
And this is all in 2004. But the guy that sent me the paperwork from Just for Laughs, he now books and is in charge of comedy on Netflix. He's the one that
Wow.
gives Chappelle all his money and
Oh.
Chris
So
Rock
he's
all
a
his
special
money.
guy.
He's the guy that does the Netflix specials. So
Wow.
somebody goes to me, why don't you try? Well, he's like, I'm sure you'll get a Netflix special. I'm like, no, I won't because I know the guy and he knows me and there's no offers.
Right, right. He has your number. You have his, right?
Well, we're on Facebook together. When he had a
Wow.
baby, I congratulated him. So it's like, and we do cross paths every now and again. But it's also like when I went to Just for Laughs in 2007, I was in a contest, and one of the 5 judges, this one guy, he now books the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So they're like,
Wow.
maybe you'll get Fallon. And I'm like, maybe I won't because I also know the booker for Jimmy Fallon. Or maybe I should send in a new tape. Who knows? But well, we'll wait to see what happens with stand-up comedy after this.
Yeah.
So who
No.
knows what's going to happen?
It
I
is
know what I would like
fascinating.
to see it happen. Yeah. Oh, it's very, very fascinating.
What would you like to see happen?
Well, I think when they have to reopen, first of all, we're going to lose a lot of comedy clubs in Canada. Any
Okay.
comedy club where the owner is paying rent, it's going to go because they're not going to keep paying rent for a whole year, and this is not going to be over in 2 months. It's going to be at least a year. That's the way I look at it. So, a year from now, they're not going to like the Yuck Yucks in Vancouver. It'll be gone. The Yuck Yucks in Edmonton is in a casino. It'll be okay.
Mm.
The Laugh Shop and the Yuck Yucks in Calgary, they'll be okay. The Yuck Yucks in Abbotsford, it'll be gone. Any of the rooms in Saskatchewan will be gone. The, you know, the
And this is for
it's
sure.
just
You're saying for sure.
well, no, pretty much because what landlord is going to keep paying rent for a year when we don't know how long this is going to last?
Yeah.
Especially in Toronto, like the Yuck Yucks and the Absolute Comedy in Toronto, the rent per month is like 20 grand and stuff like that. Like you
It's
need a
insane. Yeah.
commercial entertainment license to have that lease, and then it's insane because you're in prime real estate in a major city. There's no
Yeah.
way they're going to be able to keep up the payments for all this time. They're going to have to decide what they're going to want to do. If they're in their clubs are in hotels and stuff like that, they're going to be fine. But a lot of clubs are going to go missing unless they figure out how to do it and how to figure it out quickly. And this is what I would do if they make it to the stage where we're going to start letting people back out and places can reopen. So now here's what happens. You're only allowed to have 50 people in a venue that usually seats 200
Yeah.
because you have to have social distancing. You can't have, you can only have 2 people per table, and you have to have a table space in between. You have to have the proper distance. So
Mm-hmm.
in a room that would fit 200 now fits 50. So now the thing is you can run a club on 50 people. It's still not going to make the rent. So you have to like double the price.
Yeah.
And this is fine because the way I look at it, coming out of a year-long quarantine, people are going to fucking want to get out and they're going to want to do everything.
That's true.
And the thing is Yuck Yucks will bring in big American acts because those will try the people, whereas the Absolute will just use the Canadian acts because they know people are going to go out to the comedy shows anyways. So,
Mm.
so anyway, let's say now the ticket is now $40 to go for one person to Absolute Comedy. That is fine. That is still a good ticket. But what they got to do is online, you can still, because people are going to still be doing social distancing and still staying in. It's just they're allowed to go out now.
Right.
So people are still going to be fucking worried because people are still going to be dying, especially in the States. They're going to die quicker because they're all idiots. I'm sorry if you're listening to this in the States, but
Hey,
you
that's
have a
most of my
lot of people.
listenership. I love my U.S. people.
Yeah, and so do I. But you have a lot of people that don't believe in the virus, and the virus is very much real. It's not a conspiracy. The virus is real. People are dying. You're number one.
Right.
Like you have 50,000 deaths in your state, in your country, whereas Canada only has 1,000. We're over 1,000. We're maybe at 1,600, but the numbers are going up, and it's
Right.
not a fake thing. Like it's not, and you're right. Like I don't know what it's like in America, but our rights aren't being taken away. We're asked to wear masks.
Hmm.
We're asked to stay in. We're not being quarantined by law, where they're
Yeah.
like our rights are being taken away. It's like, are they? Or are they just asking you like, and you're not complying because you're being an idiot? You're being selfish.
No,
So
I understand that perspective. Yeah, it's different in every place, really. That's the thing. And I think I don't even think you can put it down to state or province anymore. I think at this point it's by city, because really they're giving the police departments the ability to do what they want, and
yes,
it's going to be each different county and stuff. So, like I've heard stories of people getting kicked out of grocery stores for not wearing masks as if it was mandatory, and then I've heard stories of people never wearing masks. So, I'm not exactly
yeah,
sure, but I am curious
it
about your
is.
perspective about the stage performance. What's it been like for you as a comic who's been doing this for, you said seriously since, the mid 90s? What's it been like for you not being on stage for so long?
Well, the podcasting and doing shows like that, this keeps me busy. And then basically the other things I'm doing is I have a ton of other projects that I never work on. I'm the type of guy who starts a project and then puts it aside. So I have all these unfinished projects. I have a documentary I'd love to do. I
Really?
just have to get the right people involved. I have sitcoms. I have a Kiss movie that I'd love to make.
Really?
I'll fucking pitch it here. Like to me, there hasn't been like I love A Kiss Meets the Phantom because I watched it when I was a kid and I still love it today as a cheesy movie, as a horrible movie. I love it. I'm not a big fan of Detroit Rock City.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, but I think the ultimate Kiss, my favorite Kiss story is is um is about the football team in the town of Cadillac. I
Mm.
love that story. So to me, that's your movie. It's Varsity Blues meets Dazed and Confused with a Kiss soundtrack and a Kiss backbone. And then
Wow.
the logo is like Cadillac. It comes up in the Kiss font, the silver, and it's all about this high school football team. All their seniors left, undefeated the year before, undefeated the year before. Small town football school, Cadillac, Michigan. You know, they go 0-3. The team's got all their differences. There's racial tension. They can't come together. They have no leaders. But you have this badass coach like Billy Bob Joe Thornton in Friday Night Lights or whatever, and he's a badass coach or whatever. And then you have the assistant coach. The assistant coach, one night early in the movie, he went to Cabo Hall and saw a band called Kiss. And he was
Mm-hmm.
so influenced by them, he somehow met Bill Aucoin, and he starts writing him letters about the football team. And what he does is he brings the records to try to get this team to come together. He decides, I'm going to play Kiss records while they're getting dressed up, like getting dressed for the game, just to create an environment because we're trying everything, but nothing's working. We've lost 3 fucking games in a row, and maybe 2 in the pro season we don't know about. But we have the license to change things. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be perfect history. So maybe they
Yeah.
lose 2 preseason games, so it's 5 games. You
Right.
know. So, anyways, they lose the 3 games in a row. The coach is against the music, but he likes the name of the band because it's Kiss. And the coach's philosophy for coaching is keep it simple, stupid. We run
Yeah.
6 plays, and we run them perfect. We keep it simple, stupid. That's the program. So he sees keep it simple, stupid. They're all wearing Kiss shirts, So eventually, the music of the Kiss in the dressing room brings the team together. Now, maybe this isn't the way it did it, but this is the way I see it.
That's the way that I
And
heard the
so
story.
exactly. So it brings the team together. All of a sudden, they start winning games. They start hanging out. They start painting their faces before games. All of a sudden, like one team lines up, and the whole fucking line is just a line of Gene Simmons. They're like, "What the fuck?" Like that would be trippy as a fucking 14-year-old, and you don't even know what Kiss is at that point because they ain't blown
Yeah.
up yet. But
Yeah.
this one team, this one town is fucking obsessed with them, and and it spreads through the city. The fans are painting their faces. Everything's great, and it gets to the point where they go on, they win the rest of the games and win the championship, and then
Yeah.
Kiss comes to town at the end of the movie to celebrate. Like Kiss isn't only the Bill O'Coin is in the movie. He will be reading the letters to the band, but you'll never see the band. You only see the backs of the band and stuff like that.
Man, I
The
would love to be
music,
involved.
the music is all Kiss. Here's the thing why I haven't wrote it. I know it. I know scenes that I want to happen, but the way I see it, I can't write this thing unless like it's a waste of my time to I think it's a waste of my time to write it because if it doesn't get Kiss approval or Kiss soundtrack approval, there's no point in doing it because without Kiss, it's just it's just Varsity Blues. Like
No,
it's
I
just
know
a
what you
lame.
mean.
But the Kiss thing is the important thing, and like there are tons of YouTube videos to watch this coach. He talks about all of everything on YouTube, and
Yeah.
on one of the Kiss trees, there's that documentary on it as well.
I think it's
I think it's the
Kissology 1.
Kissology one. I think so too.
I'm such a
And
nerd, I'm sorry.
no. I know you are. I know I don't have to go through. So I know also Kissology, and then the in the Kisstory book I have the coffee table book,
Oh,
the big one. It has like 2 pages on it and the whole story. So
wow.
I love that story. I love football movies. I love timepieces, and this would have all of that entwined into one. And to me, that's the Kiss movie they need to make. So, eventually, like, I'd love to get a pitch together and just pitch it to Gene,
Hmm.
and see what he thinks. Because you give me what the time that, of course, I just pitched it to you, but that's too long. I gotta have it tight, faster, and better. But being
Right.
a comic, that's what you do. You take something that's this long, you make it this long,
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a good movie idea, and I think that's the movie they should make. I think it's a great story, and it's perfect high. Like you want kids. Number one, you want kids to go see your movie. It's a high school directed towards a high school age,
Hmm.
and number two, it is going to introduce the Kiss catalog to a brand new fucking generation
It's
after
just like
Kiss
the
is done
dirt.
touring. It's just like the dirt, but it's not anything like the dirt.
Yeah, but
It's
not
more.
filthy.
It's not filthy. It's actually family friendly. It's a, you know, uh, I would say, like not rated R, but adult accompaniment, like 18, and like 16-year-olds could go see this movie. 15-year-olds could go see it.
Yeah.
13-year-olds could go see it. So, that is my idea of my Kiss movie, and I'd like to start working on that, even if I work on the one pager, and
Yeah.
because it's if I ever get the opportunity to meet Gene, that would be I would be like, all right, do you have time? Do you have 90 seconds for a pitch? Like
Yeah.
here we go. Yeah, I'm like pull out your clock, ready? And I
Yeah,
would just give him
seriously.
the fucking
Time me.
pitch.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll
if
tell you,
I could
those
get it
guys
down
are
to 90
receptive to a
seconds.
pitch.
I would think so. Well, yeah. And I always used to think like, how do I get to him? How do I get to him? And and then Russell Peters became famous. And I was like, oh my God. And then Russell Peters became friends with Gene Simmons. So
Right.
I was like, I just got to get a hold of Russell and he'd get a hold of Gene. Like it's that easy, but
Yeah.
that was always my go-to. I'm like, I just go through Russell. Yeah. Do you have Russell's number? No.
Yeah,
how you,
seriously.
how you
We'll
gonna get
get
a
it
hold of
one day.
Russell? Yeah, how you
Yeah.
gonna get a hold of Russell? Through friends. I'll figure it out. So yeah.
Glass half full
Oh
attitude.
yeah, of course. So there was ideas like that. I came up with a new video podcast idea that I'm testing out this week already. So that one I've jumped on because with podcasts, you can't hesitate. If you have an idea, you got to go with it. And I didn't even Google this idea yet, but because I've had some really good podcast ideas, but
Hmm.
then I Google them and then they already exist, and you're like, fuck, like
Yeah.
uh, one of my favorite ideas for one was I wanted to call the podcast. I was going to pitch this to CBC, and I did do the write up, the one pager, and everything. And the last thing I did was I was checking to see if the title was used. But
Hmm.
then, so the podcast idea was called "Never Meet Your Heroes" or "Meeting Your
Okay.
Heroes." So the idea is they say you should never meet your heroes, and I have met from my heroes. I've met my rock god. I've met my comedy hero. I've met my hockey hero. I've met several of my heroes, and
Hmm.
all the stories are. And I met my wrestling hero. So I've
Hmm.
met several of my heroes, and they're all there's a story behind each one of them. So like I met Eddie Van Halen, and
Wow.
I was in a room with him alone. We had a conversation, but when I got out of the room, the road manager came up to me because we were backstage. He pulled me aside and threatened to kick the shit out of me,
Oh
like
my
right to
God.
my face. And I was like 21 years old. I was a caterer and I catered concerts, but I volunteered to do Van Halen for free as long as I got the sound check and the concert off. So, but I was
Oh.
there from 6 a.m. till 2:30 in the morning on site of
Wow.
where the concert was. And I
Holy
worked a
shit.
full day. Yeah. So I got to meet and talk to Eddie Van Halen, but at the same time, I got threatened by the road manager, and then I had to stay away from the band, and then which sucked. So then other things happened, and then late after the concert, the band was having dinner. They had dinner together at like after the show, and it was like a nice dinner. It was catered in a nice room and everything like that. And so they're doing the dinner, and meanwhile Eddie's outside smoking after his dinner, and security guards are getting CDs autographed. So I give my tour book to one of the guys that works for me, who's underneath me. I said, take this over there and get him to autograph this. And I gave him the marker and I gave him the pen. And he goes, which, who, where? I'm like, that guy over there. Okay. And I was like, this picture, match them up. They'll look the same, you
Yeah.
know?
Look at the
And
guy.
and look at the picture, look at the guy, get the autograph. So he runs up. All the security guys are fading out. He runs up. He gets the autograph. The fucking road manager comes out when the guy that I sent over is getting the fucking autograph. So it's another caterer bothering Eddie Van Halen again.
Oh.
So he pulls him aside, and then he comes back to me. He goes, um, "You got me in some trouble." And I was like, "I know you got in trouble. Don't worry." He goes, "I don't think that road manager likes you very much." And he goes, well, I was like, "Why? Why do you say that?" He's told me that I should never go near his friends ever again, and he told me to tell you, or well, no, to tell my fat fucking friend to fucking stay away as well. And I was like, fucking asshole, you know. So, but regardless of being threatened to get my shit kicked out of me and my coworker, it was still worth meeting Eddie Van Halen. So, so
Totally.
that's like one of my stories, and I wonder if other people have stories. And my buddy, my buddy has a great story about meeting Gord Downey when he didn't want to meet him, but he met him and they became friends, and it's a
Wow.
great story. And then I have another story, another friend that had the story, and another friend. So I thought this is a good podcast to do
Yeah.
because if it's on CBC and I get a producer, they can help me book actual good people. Like, not that there's anything wrong with the people I book, but
Yeah.
if I had a better reach to get Eugene Levy in here, that would be fucking awesome.
Hell
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so yeah, so um, yeah. So anyway,
So the
Jeepers,
name was
lost
taken?
my place. Oh yeah, so I googled the name. The name's not only taken, the podcast is taken, and it's by
Oh.
fucking Scott Ian from Anthrax.
Oh, really? Shit. I
Yeah,
didn't know he had a
I'm like,
podcast.
yeah, I'm like, Scotty, and you don't have enough money. You got to have a fucking podcast too to go along with your anthrax and your poker career. Come on.
Leave some for the rest of us, pal. What the fuck?
Yes, I thought you said you were antisocial.
Yeah,
You know,
seriously.
so
That's
um,
hilarious. I had one more thing I
but
wanted
yeah,
to
so
ask you about.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, you mentioned that you really loved Norm Macdonald and that reading his
Yeah,
article
he's the
was one of
best.
the first things that really got you into comedy, right?
Well, I was already into comedy by that point. Like Eddie Murphy, Delirious. The minute you
Mm-hmm.
see that, how can you not want to be that? That, and especially
Sure.
when I saw it when I was 13 years old, that was it. From that point on, I wanted to be a comedian. And then Norm was on Saturday Night Live when I was in high school, and just watching this guy be so funny on Saturday Night Live, and then watching his stand up when you can get a hold of it or find it, he was just like, he just was the coolest to me. And when I finally moved out of to Ottawa, like he was in the Will Ferrell years at that point,
Mm-hmm.
like where he was on the show at that point, coming out of the Farley years and the Sandler years, which are my two favorite casts of that time. Like, so he's just like legendary. And then, like he was, not only that was he so good on Saturday Night Live, is he would go on talk shows and be so entertaining on Conan and
Yeah.
Letterman. And that's where he, like, even after he kind of disappeared from television, he would still make a career out of being on late night television shows, and that's a legendary as well. Like,
Yeah.
people know about him being on Conan and doing the moth joke,
Right.
or people know about him being on Letterman the weekend he got fired from Weekend Update,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, and you see Dave's love for him, Dave Letterman's love for Norm, and how everybody respects Norm. How can you not realize he's the best? Like, he's
He's
the
insane.
best comedian. He's the best to come out of Ottawa. The best. Like, I would put him number one, and then Mike Macdonald was already doing it before Ottawa Yuck Yuck started. But as far as the Yuck Yucks in Ottawa and who came out of Ottawa, Norm is number one, and John Doerr is number two, and Tracy McDonald could be number three because she won Star Search. But I don't know, because she's still great, but other people are getting things now. Like Graham K just got a special. He's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. John Steinberg is amazing. So there's so many good, great comics that come out and continuing to come out of Ottawa. But as far as, I don't think there's anybody better than Norm or John Doerr. So
Yeah.
those
I
guys
would
are the
actually
best.
agree with
Yeah.
that, especially in terms of the Ottawa scene. Is it true that you played poker with Norm Macdonald on more than one occasion?
Yeah, totally. Well, I went and I've opened for him two weekends in Calgary, 2 years in a row,
Oh, wow.
and so we would do the shows, and then we would play poker, late night poker, every night, and just friendly, gambling, nothing out of control, nothing.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks Norm's this big gambling addict. No, we're just
That's what I always
everybody's
hear.
putting in. Yeah, everybody's putting in maybe $60,
Okay.
and the winner take the pool. But there might be like 8 guys or whatever. The winner might walk with $300. So, we play every night, and playing poker is always fun. But then you have a table of comics, it's even better. And then
Mm-hmm.
you add Norm to it, who is so intelligent. Like, he would commentate the games, and it would be so fascinating. As I'm a terrible poker player, I would win the pot, and he'd be like, why would you? He was like, why would you play that hand? And I'm like, because I don't know how to play poker, Norm, and I'm cashing in all the money. I won with a 7-2, like
Really?
two pair, like two sevens and two twos. They're like, no, you shouldn't even have had. And the last 7-2 came up on the last two cards, so I
Oh
held
my
on to the
gosh.
7-2, and then I got lucky and won, and it was just like, people were upset that they lost to that hand. They're like, you don't even know how to fucking play.
Beginner's
So
luck.
beginner's luck, but yeah. But there was one night where I had the chip count. I had the high stack. Another comedian had a lower stack that was just holding on to the minimums, and then Norm had the other stack. And I forgot that it was like I thought it was my turn, and I was trying to think what I was doing. And I was like, huh. And then Norm said, "What are you thinking?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know." I said, I said, I have. I said, when those sixes came up on the flop, I got excited because I made the set. But now that the cards keep falling, my set's useless, and my hand is turning into a flush. And I said, but I don't think my flush is strong enough because my highest card is weak. And I think you're gambling like you have something. So I think maybe you have the flush. And I said, and I don't know what to do. And then Norm goes, okay, all in, and he pushes all of his chips in. And then I'm like, what? And then we flip him over, and he's got the fucking high flush, or
Ah,
my flush. My highest was 8 of clubs, and he had this like a queen or something like that. So he had the high club flush. I still had the triple sixes, but that didn't mean fuck all. And he got and he like I it was he went all in, and then I matched him, but I had like very little things left, so I just he bought me out, and I got $40 to go home with, and he got the rest of 300 or whatever. But it was like, but then the other comedian that was in the hand said, and I got to give him credit because this is a great line. His name is Jamie Hutchinson, and Jamie Hutchinson said, "So let me get this straight. Your tell is you tell," and everybody started laughing, and I was like, oh,
you just
"Fuck yeah!
literally
What am I
tell
doing?"
us.
Yeah, I literally told them everything and was humiliated in the process. So, but hey, it's like Norm getting to watch him perform an hour over 5 shows, 6 shows, and I would watch every one of them because I'm fascinated at his choices and how he does joke. Like he'll still use the word retard. And it's just so funny to me, but
Mhm.
I can't get away with using it anymore. I did a
Yeah,
joke about fucking Good Doctor, and the woman got upset at me after a show because her
really.
grandson had autism, and I was like, I'm just making fun of a show that's not
Right.
real,
Yeah.
and you're upset because your grandfather has autism. Like people are so uh, triggered these days. They can't wait to get triggered, right? So
Of course. That's
it's
it
crazy.
seems like to be the
Yeah.
pastime of choice nowadays for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, yeah. People want to complain, yeah, people want to complain and they want their voices to be heard and stuff like that. And
And now
sometimes it's just
everybody
like you're just
can.
picking the wrong fight, and
Exactly.
they are. That's what's going on in Vancouver, and Vancouver's protesting too. Like the people have protested in Vancouver, not to the
Yeah.
extent of the states, but there are people in Canada that do believe that they're being told what to do and they don't like it. But I like to think in Canada we're being asked what to do, and I
Yeah.
think the majority of the country is complying, and the numbers aren't out of control. And I think politicians are being smart up here because they know it's election year,
Hmm.
and they're how they perform in this pandemic is going to it's going to lead into the next election. So
Yeah, it'll certainly
it's
have an impact
interesting,
for sure. Yeah, it is
and it's
interesting
like that.
times.
It's like that in the states as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the states and to see what happens with the rest of the world. And is like I love conspiracies, and you know a little bit. A little like a little bit of this, I do believe, could be a conspiracy. Like maybe they are trying to depopulate the Earth to make the Earth healthier, to give it a breather. Maybe they're just doing a restart button. They're trying to decrease the population by getting rid of the elderly. They created a virus, and they're going to do it for a year where they can feel like they can somewhat control this, but they're going to hundreds of thousands of people are going to die, but it's good for the earth, so
Right.
this could be a conspiracy. I'm sure there are conspiracies made about it, but the fact is, it's like, whether it's a conspiracy or not, it doesn't fucking matter. It's real, and it's here, and it's happening, and it's not to get you to stay indoors and have businesses shut down and the fucking stock market to plummet. That's not the idea. The idea is to, that would not be, that's the idea is like, let's flatten the curve and let's start easing back into civilization. So
yeah, exactly. No,
and
it's true. There are tons of conspiracy and just regular theories about it. And I think the beauty for me of this platform is having everybody on and through talking about their interests, also getting their opinions on a situation like this, and really just letting the listeners decide. I'll put anybody's opinion up here, but certainly anybody's guest, and it certainly is fascinating. But Casey, I want to thank you for taking the time to join me today. It's been really awesome talking to you, man, and you have some really cool experiences.
cool. Hey, and yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
I didn't get to tell you about that last Kiss concert I went to. I got, like, even after seeing Roth in Vegas, I went and saw the Buffalo show with Kiss and Roth, and his band, Roth's band, had changed. Two of the members were different, and but his band was tighter, and his set was tighter, and his voice was better than Vegas.
Really?
And
Okay.
yeah, and this was like maybe like 5 or 6 shows into the new Kiss leg, where he was doing shows with them. And then the Kiss concert was just, this was like the third time I've seen the end of the road tour, and but this time I picked a seat on the floor right beside the sound check booth, like the middle. What is it? Sound check? I don't know what it's called.
I think it's
But
just the soundboard.
the soundboard,
Yeah.
because they say where the soundboard is the best place to listen to the concert, because that's why they're there. So that's where the best sound is. So
Makes sense.
But the Buffalo arena was the third level was shut off. They didn't sell out the place. So the third level was closed. So it was the bottom two levels, but they had a smaller production, so they didn't have Paul's big stage. So I was like, for the flyout, yeah. But what I noticed was, after David Lee Roth, when I came back from getting a drink, the Paul's stage was hidden in the sound check. So now I'm right beside Paul's stage. And now I'm already excited for that. But before Paul comes out, Doc comes out before Paul flies out.
The Kiss
and
manager.
Doc is watching the concert. Yeah. And he's got a full head of hair, which I've never seen him with before, but it looks good on him. So congrats, Doc. And so Doc is there, and he's talking to this tall guy with gray hair who was there the whole time. And I don't stop dancing and singing at a fucking Kiss concert. Like, I go nuts the whole show. So, and I'm on the aisle, and I'm right there, and like, it's great. So I just sort of like, it's Doc McGee. Like, this is fucking, to me, I'm like, this is a big deal, because not just Kiss, all the music from my childhood that I love today, he's responsible for all of it. Scorpions, fucking Bon Jovi, Cinderella,
Motley, Guns,
Skid Row, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Then the bands go. So I fucking went up to him in between songs, and I said, "Hey, I just want to thank you for reviving Kiss, and for finding Motley Crue, and for reviving Kiss, because he did revive Kiss." And I said, And like Alive 3 wasn't even a tour that even went worldwide. It was just American States. Like it was so like I'm like Revenge was such a great album that didn't even come to Canada tour. I'm like fuck. Hot in the
Yeah.
Shade did. And Hot in the Shade wasn't even as good as Revenge. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just said thanks for finding Motley Crue and reviving Kiss and everything in between. I said thank you. And he just smiled and I just sort of gave him a bow and I backed up and just let it be. And then people, I didn't draw attention to him, but then a couple other people, then all of a sudden Kiss fans are coming over and he's taking pictures with Kiss fans and stuff like that. And, but yeah, and then Paul flies out and he did his whole thing. And then after Paul left, the guy in the gray hair, the taller guy, he reached in his pocket and he gave me 2 guitar picks. He gave
Wow.
me Paul Stanley guitar pick, and the other one is a Eric Singer guitar pick, which doesn't really make sense, but to me,
Right.
it's fantastic nonetheless.
That's
So
badass, man. That's super cool. So you actually got some little souvenirs from that too.
fucking, it was amazing, and it
That's
was an amazing
badass.
show, and I wish that the everything could go back to normal so we can get back to Kiss concerts and get back to wrestling and get back to comedy and get back to movies and just get back to normal. I can't wait for that to happen. But
Ready to
till
rock and
then,
roll all night, party every day again, right?
damn right.
Exactly, man. No, I completely agree, dude. And you know what? If we keep the optimism and we keep that type of attitude, when we come out of this, we're like you said, people are going to be eager to go do stuff. We're going to be happy. We're going to be united. So just keep the positivity, my man. But I just wanted you to
And
give you the opportunity to shout out your podcast and to shout out your social media for everybody out there.
yeah, you can check me out. I'm on Talkin' Wrestling, TALK apostrophe N WRESTLING. Like Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, this is Talkin' Wrestling. It's available on iTunes. It's available on Spotify. It's available Apple Music. It's available anywhere where popular podcasts are found. Also, Casey Corbin. You can hit me up on Twitter, Casey Corbin, Instagram, comedian Casey Corbin. I'm also on Spotify and Apple Music. I have 3 albums. Vampires Are Popular, Turtle Crossing, and Different Jokes. And they're all currently on play in Spotify and Apple Music or available on iTunes if you want to buy them. But why buy them? Just go to Spotify, listen to them there. Yeah, and that is pretty much it. YouTube, Casey Corbin as well. A lot of videos on YouTube, so check them out.
Beautiful. Casey Corbin, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cassius. It's always a pleasure talking to you and catching up to you. It's always great.